Hi, do you ever feel like your mind is racing and it just won't stop? It's just going from one thought to the next, catastrophizing, just telling you that something terrible is going to happen and you just can't seem to get your mind still. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you two really powerful techniques to help you still your mind. We're going to be using the body to get out of our mind and to be able to help to calm those anxious thoughts. Stick with me and let's go. So the first thing that I wanted to tell you before we get into the techniques is actually that when your mind's giving you all these catastrophizing thoughts, it's not working against you. It's actually trying to protect you. So what your brain's role is to keep you alive. So your brain is constantly scanning for threats. And if you get into the habit of following every single thought that your brain has, then it's going to be doing this more often. And it's actually going to be going one thought, two thoughts, three thoughts, 10 thoughts down the road if you don't interrupt it. So the key to this, the key to stilling the brain is practice. And I always say, like the Buddhist monks that you see sitting and meditating, like my little brain friend behind me here, don't just learn to do that automatically. That doesn't just come to them. It comes through years and years of practice, being able to still the mind. And even when they're sitting, they're not thoughtless most of the time. They're not actually having no thoughts. They're actually having thoughts appearing, but they just know how to not engage with those thoughts, so those thoughts don't gain energy. So I'm going to show you how to do that today, or how to start doing that practice by using some bodily techniques. So the first thing I'd like you to do, go and get a pen and paper, please. So I'll just give you a second to do that while I tell you why. What we're going to do is we're going to actually write down exactly what thoughts are going through your head. And I want you to write it exactly as you're hearing it in your head. When we write down our thoughts, it takes some of the power away from them straight away. And we're going to come back to these thoughts later. But what I want you to do right now is to write them down. When we've done the techniques that I'm going to show you, the bodily techniques that will help you to calm the brain down, and we can think a little more rationally, we're going to come back to those thoughts. But for the moment, just write them down exactly as you're hearing them in your head. Exactly, okay? This might be a little uncomfortable, but write the exact words that you're hearing. Okay, so now, cheers, having a little slurp of coffee. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to come to the breath technique that I talked to you about earlier. So we're going to now use a breath technique to get ourselves out of our head, and we're actually going to be using the breath. The breath is so powerful because it's the only thing that happens in our autonomic nervous system, the stuff that happens automatically without us thinking about it, that we can actually change. And by changing the way that we breathe, we can change our arousal state from feeling over-aroused to calm, or calm to energized. So what we want to do today is we want to go over-aroused to calm. And then once we start to give our body and our brain the signal that actually everything's okay, we'll be able to then think a little more rationally. So let's do this together. So find yourself a chair, and we're just going to sit with our back against the chair and our feet firmly and flat on the floor. Hands just wherever is comfortable. And we're going to start by just inhaling and exhaling for a few breaths just through the nose, not through the mouth. We use the mouth, we give the impression that we're more aroused. Mouth breathing will make us more aroused. We want to be using the nose. So inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Just keep that going in your own time. Just nice slow breaths. Nothing exaggerated, just normal breaths, but slow as you can make them. And now, as you're doing that breathing, I want you to look around your room with your next inhale. Look around the room and notice something you can see. So you might want to just place your eyes, something, I can see a plant over there. So just draw attention to that. Exhaling, inhaling, just noticing that object in as much detail as you can. So really notice, like with this plant, I'm noticing the exact shape of the leaves. It's green, but what type of green is it? Because there's lots of different greens. So we're being really, really specific on what we can see. And now, as you inhale again, I want you to just notice what you can hear. Other than my voice, there'll be background noises. So let's see if we can pick out something a bit further in the distance, a bit further outside of this room perhaps, that you're sitting in. So let's just do that as we breathe in and out. and in and out, just noticing what you can hear. I can hear a little bird somewhere in the distance, maybe in my garden. So just bring attention to what you can hear. And now we're letting go of that sound, and as we inhale again, we're going to just start touching our fingers with our thumb. Exhaling, inhaling, exhaling, just noticing the feel of our fingers against our thumb. Now the other thing you might want to do with touch, if you have a necklace, for example, that you wear, you can just feel the necklace or a bracelet or a piece of jewellery. So if you have a ring, like a chunky ring, you could take the ring off and you could just use that to really, you could play with it with your fingers, maybe move it from one finger to the other. So using the sense of touch. And now on the next inhale, I just want you to really smell. Is there anything you can smell in your environment? Anything at all? Maybe you have some perfume on today. Maybe you have a smelly dog. My dog is sometimes a little poggy. He's not in the room with me today, but if he were, maybe I could have a little waft of the dog. I can actually smell, I've got some buddleia in my vase behind me here. I can smell that, so it's a bit nicer than a smelly dog. But just whatever you can smell. So we're using all of the senses. And then the final one, which is a little more difficult to do if you're not in your home, you don't have anything to hand. But if you have something, if you have a drink, I just want you to take a sip and just notice, really notice the taste of that drink. So that's, as we're inhaling and exhaling, we're using the 5 senses to really calm our bodies. And by using the breath, the slow breathing, that's giving our body the signal that we're calm, we're safe, everything's okay. And that should start to slow the brain down. As you're doing this exercise, you might find the brain tries to go off again. So every time you notice that, you bring attention back. You go, oh, I've noticed. And that's the first fantastic thing. If we don't notice it, we can't do anything about it. So we notice it. And as soon as we notice it, we go, okay, brain, we're coming back to this now. We're now breathing and we're noticing what I can see, what I can hear. We're bringing ourselves back to the senses and interrupting that thought cycle. The more often we do this, the easier it is to interrupt, the quicker we'll be able to interrupt. And eventually over time, the less often the brain will start to go down a little road, and when we need to interrupt, we get better at it. Then the brain gets more conscious and centred in the current moment. Okay, so now we've done that, and then we've actually grounded ourselves by using our breath and our bodies to get ourselves out of our head. We're going to come back to that piece of paper where you wrote down the thoughts at the beginning. And I want you just to have a look at those thoughts. And I want you first of all to go down and look at each and every thought and say to yourself, how likely is this that this will happen? And you might want to judge that by, has this ever happened before to me? Yes or no? If it has, then we'll leave that to one side. I'll come back to that in a second. If it hasn't, how likely is it to actually happen? How likely? So we're just going to do that with each thought that you've written down. And then I want you to go down the thoughts once more and to say, out of each of these thoughts, which are the ones that I can actually do something about and which are completely out of my control? And the ones that are completely out of your control, I want you to cross them off. Because there's no point in us concentrating our energy on something we can't change. All we do is wear ourselves out thinking and worrying about that thing. It's never going to make any difference, however much we worry. So we're not going to focus our energy on that. And now what you'll have left, having crossed those thoughts out, are things that you can actually influence and things that are more likely to happen. So I'd also like you to cross out anything that you think it's just ridiculous, it's never going to happen. So now we're left with just the things that might happen and the things we can do something about. And now what we can do is we can order those thoughts into, okay, which is the thing that we could actually do something about and it would take the least effort and time to do something about but have the biggest impact. We're going to put that at the top. And then the next thing that is going to take the next least amount of time and have the second biggest impact. So you're going to do that with all of the things you have listed, and then you can start taking action. So this has two effects, this technique. The first one is we stop ourselves from spending our energy on stuff that we're never going to be able to change in a month of Sundays. We're just not going to make any difference. So what's the point in worrying about that thing? And the second thing, by focusing on the things that are more likely to happen and we can change, by actually expending our energy on that, it gives us less brain space to start going down another little road about things we can't affect. So there's like a double whammy with that. So what we've learned today is stillness doesn't come from fighting your thoughts, and it also doesn't come through no practice. So we do have to practice this, and it's perfectly normal to have thoughts. It's perfectly normal for things to pop into our head about, oh, maybe I should think about this, or maybe I should do that, or that could be a bit of a risk. That's normal. That's our brain keeping us safe. So the first thing is we don't beat ourselves up that we're having thoughts. They're normal. But secondly, we do need to practice not engaging with every single thought that pops into our head, because the more we engage with it, the more we're going to have more thoughts come into our head. The more we interrupt those thoughts and come back to the present moment, the easier that's going to become. So just use that technique I showed you, interrupt the thoughts, practicing writing down the stuff that's actually coming into your head will help you really to sort it about not worrying about stuff that you're not going to be able to affect, and then actually doing something about the stuff you are going to be able to affect. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope to see you in another video soon. Take care.